Alrighty, hi everyone, it's Ionic. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the settings you're going to want to have and just the general mindset behind swarm kiting. Not actually any of the locations, but what you're going to need equipment-wise. So, one of the things about swarm kiting, I'm just going to get into it, everything I remember. Lag is really important. Lag is what's most likely going to get you killed. I'm pretty much perfect when it comes to swarm kiting. The only thing that does get me killed is lag. So right now you can see 102 milliseconds. You can bring this up by pressing the F11 key on the keyboard. That will give you a good indication. From my understanding, at least from my experience, if my lag is above 130 milliseconds, 120 to 130 milliseconds, I don't swarm. If the lag is too much, it's too risky, and I wouldn't do it. And even if you do have a good ping, there's another thing that can take you out. So one of the quirks about the game is that there is, anytime someone zones into the zone where you're at, it can cause a lag skip because their data has to load into the game. That's a very big reason as to why people get lag. So one thing you really need to do, one thing you have to do in order to avoid that. So when someone zones into the zone where you're at, you get a lag skip. How do you avoid that? Well, the reason why is because your game isn't 100% loaded. So there's two ways you can do that to get your game 100% loaded. And it depends on what kind of specs your computer has. So I'm going to go to the desktop right now, and I'm going to show. So one of the things you can do is a RAM drive. Now, this is if you don't, well, there's two methods. This is a RAM drive. So what this does is it starts a new drive in your directory, and you set how big you want it to be. And then all you do is you put the game in that drive and run it from there. And when you do that, you need to make sure you put the correct info into WinEQ. So you go into your preferences and WinEQ, EverQuest, profiles, and then make sure you have the right directory, like you can see right here. So it comes from the R drive, or when I use a RAM drive to run the game. Whereas normally I run it from my solid state. So you can see two different directories. So you just copy and paste a directory in where you're playing. Like how you do that. So mine's on my solid state, program files, EQ Lite, Control C, copy. Well, you go in there, then Control C, copy, paste. And go into options, preferences, EQ, profiles, go into a profile and paste it right here. So one of the things you can do is that RAM drive. That will get the system so that there's no lag as you zone in. Every 31st February. So that will help out tremendously. Again, the reason why you're getting those lag skips when someone zones in is because the game isn't 100% loaded. So if you have the game completely in RAM, it's completely loaded. But there's a problem. If your file size for the game is too big, like, let me see how big this is. I think normally it's about 4 gigs. If you don't have about, at least in my setup, if you don't have at least about 2 gigs of room on that, on your extra, 2 gigs extra on your PC, then you can't do this. Let me see. I can go to, let's see, my properties. Yeah. So you can see I have 16 gigabytes installed in RAM, and that helps out tremendously. So that's one thing. So you can put the game on RAM, or you can put it on a solid state drive, SSD, which is a different form of memory. It's a bit more expensive than the standard hard drives, hard drive disks. But boots super fast. Heck, I even put my BIOS to start up the computer, and this computer just zooms right back on. Zooms on real quick. So either you can put it on a solid state drive, or you can put it on a RAM drive. And that's how you get rid of that lagging issue, principally. So I remember on my old laptop, I would run a RAM drive because I didn't have a solid state and I couldn't install it. And that seemed to work pretty decent for it to work. So that's that portion. That's how you do that particular portion of the computer setup. And I'd really say you got to be careful. Half the battle with swarm kiting is really just, do you have a computer that's capable enough of actually running the game at that kind of a level? Now let me think of any other. There's definitely more to swarm kiting. So I'll show the macros once I get here into West Freeport and how you actually set it up. One of the mechanics I'll talk about. You know what? This is actually a wide open spot. I don't have to worry about hitting anybody. So one of the mechanics of the game is that running in a straight line, mobs will be able to catch up and beat you. But if you're strafing, you're going faster than if you're going in a straight line. So that's typically how you do those circles. So what bards will do is they'll strafe around in a circle, and they will essentially get those kills. So that's how they keep their distance. And as they strafe, they slowly get speed in. They slowly bring themselves in just enough to land those dots. So let me load some dots here. I can kind of demonstrate. And this is, yeah, this one's my swarm kiting. So for swarm kiting, you're going to want to have two pretty good instruments. You're really just going to need a brass instrument and a good stringed instrument. And you need that for Denon's Disruptive Discord, level 18. Celo's Chords of Dissonance or Celo's Chord of Cessation at 48. Chords of Dissonance at 2. And then there's another one that you get at level 59. That's also stringed. That also happens to stack with Celo's Assonant Strain. This is the one you use for snaring, the AOE snare. So you want to have two good instruments. And now this is the trick. So this is how you auto strafe. So you press forward on your keyboard, you press one of the side angles, so you're strafing. So forward, well, first actually you want to right click and hold that right click so you see my cursor's gone. Forward and left, forward and left. And then you press the enter key and then let go. There you go, you're auto strafing. You have to be careful about typing because you can see my typing thing wants to go off. So I kind of fix that by just fixing something in my inventory, and then I don't have to worry about that. Because if you don't, let's say I'm trying to click one of my macros here. I press 3 on my keyboard. It just types it in. And I press enter. Sometimes I've stopped, and that's actually, I've been killed a couple times from doing that. So make sure that you kind of shift something in your inventory prior to actually starting. And then what you do from that point on is you just get your twist going. So I normally twist in these last 2 bars on the song casting thing. So I will twist in there. And then I'm going to twist in there. And I'm going to twist in there. And you can see when you have this auto strafe, it's quite easy. Trees will screw you up. That's a very good example. You hit that tree, you stuck on it, you're dead. Absolutely. That's why you kind of want some open areas, and you need to be very conscious of those trees. Auto strafe, twist it in. Auto strafe, turn, twist it in. Auto strafe, turn, twist it in. Auto strafe. There we go. And that's the general mechanics of how it's done. I don't have a whole lot of experience when it comes to the AOE snare kiting. You don't really have to auto strafe at all. You can kind of just manually keep going, making circles around the mobs. I think the trick is to make sure you're within the aura of the song, the bloom of the spell effects that come off when you do it. But overall, that's the general guidelines, and you can see it's kind of getting dark, so this is a big reason why I like that Dark Elf mask. Because if you can't see where the mobs are behind you, it kind of gets risky. Yeah, I can see a whole lot better now. So I'm going to show a couple different zones, how swarm kiting is actually done, and that will be it. But first of all, I just got to make sure you can even do it. Your computer's capable of handling it. All that. One of the things I also do when I'm about to kite, people will try to communicate with you when you're doing it. And I make an AFK saying, I can't type while kiting, so they understand. Because you really can't. You have to focus your dedication. You have to put a lot of focus on what you're doing at that point in time. And yeah, I guess I'll show more details. I'll show some of the zones, how it's actually done. All right. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next video.